Hi, this is Tara Reed and welcome to my sewing studio. As you can see, I have been very busy playing with Santa pants. That's what I am calling this pattern, Santa Pants Sack. And I'm going to show you how to do this medium size. It is 16 by 20 if you keep it flat, but I'm also going to show you how to do that built-in box bottom. They are fully lined, so they'll last and you can use them year after year. This could become your official Santa gift bag for your family. Totally up to you. I played with machine embroidery, added a name on there. I think that is so cute. So if you have an embroidery machine, that might be something you want to add. You can get this pattern for this medium size and the template for the buckle. There's a link in the description below this video. Or if you want the pattern for all three sizes, this cute little double drawstring, the medium and the large, you can find that link as well in my Etsy shop. So who is ready to sew for Christmas? I know I am. Let's get started. Let's talk about the supplies we need to make this 16 by 20 lined Santa sack. The first thing we're going to need is 2 pieces in white for the lining. Then we'll need some pins, rotary cutter, rulers. I also like to use this little 3-inch ruler, but you can use a regular ruler as well when we're cutting out the box corners. I like this heat erasable Frixion pen. Then you're going to do strips of fabric, white, red, black, and red. And there's 2 of each of these. And in the description below, you can find a link to get all of the details for this size. The link will also include a template for the buckle. Then we're going to applique that on. And I just put fusible webbing on the back. So then you'll need yellow thread for that applique. Otherwise, I'm going to be working with white. You're also going to need some cord or ribbon or string, whatever you want to use for the drawstring for this bag. I have some nylon poly cord that I got that I will be using. Your sewing machine, of course, and an ironing board. So I'm just moving my second set of everything so that I can show you how we're going to do this. Basically, we're going to sew these strips together. So you're going to put them, and since I'm just using solids, there's no real right or wrong side, but we're going to sew along there. We're going to sew the white to the red, then the black to the red, then the red to the black. So the front and the back are going to look like this. Then on one side, you're going to applique your buckle in the center. Just going to sew down the 4 sections that we pinned together with a 1/4-inch seam. Just easy, straight sewing. And now I'm going to daisy chain these, which basically means I'm just going to feed this one in right after that one without cutting the thread. It'll have a little piece of thread between the 2. Then I'm just going to knot on either side and keep sewing. So you just have that much thread in between when you daisy chain. I know a lot of you will already know this, but everybody learns it at some time, and maybe it's on this video. So I'm just going to snip these apart. And then I'm going to take it to the ironing board and I'm going to press them so that the seams go towards the red on the red and white or towards the black on the black and red. Then I'm going to pin them back together and come back here. I've pressed the seams towards the black and towards the red on the red and white. And then I have pinned these together with the black and the red matching. And we're going to sew, and I did that for both halves. So we're just going to, more straight stitching, sew these together. Now we have our 2 fronts. And we have our lining, and you will notice that they are not the same height, and that is intentional because we're going to create a drawstring bag with this section, and this is going to get tucked under. So just know, don't panic, that is deliberate. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to put the buckle onto one of these sides. So this is going to be the back. Santa only buckles his pants on one side, not the front and the back. And in the directions, I'll give you the template to make this, so it'll be super easy for you. So first you just need to find the center. You're just going to fold that in half so you know how to place this down. You're just going to make sure that fold is right in the center of the buckle. I am using a Pellon pressure sensitive webbing. You don't have to iron it. Get that centered and make sure it's pretty even above and below the belt. You also want to make sure any longer threads come off the sides because we're going to applique. I'm going to use a zigzag applique, and we don't want it to have a bunch of little threads coming off the side. You can also fix that at your sewing machine if you want to. So now we're going to go back to the machine and do a little zigzag. Then we'll come back and I'll show you how we're going to put the bag together. I've changed my plate and my presser foot so that I can do a zigzag stitch. And then I just wanted to show you the settings. I'm doing 0.75 for how close together the stitches are going to be and a 3.5 for how wide the stitches are going to be. So just look at your machine. I'm using a Janome M7 Continental. Look at your machine and set that up. Oh, and I've also chosen a right needle position. This has a middle and a right needle position for the zigzag because that's going to help me to set exactly where that needle goes in so that I can stitch perfectly around this Santa buckle. So let's get stitching. The first thing you need to do is make sure you're putting your needle down right outside the edge of your buckle. So I'm going to eyeball it and then I'm going to put the foot down. And then if I move it by hand, I can see where that's going to enter without actually letting it go into the fabric. And it's still a little bit over from where I want it. So I'm going to adjust that. Okay, so I'm happy with where it is. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my bobbin thread so that I don't get a bird's nest knot under there. So I'm going to hold the top thread, press the bobbin down or the needle down, up, and then you can see that bobbin popped up. So now I'm going to grab both of these threads, put them under the foot, and I'm going to hold them and do a little knot. Now I'm just pulling them behind so they don't get pulled into all of my stitching. And now I'm just going to stitch around the outside with a zigzag to applique this on, and then we will switch and we will do the inside. You want to go slow so that you know your needle is going to stop on the right-hand side of your yellow when you turn your fabric 90 degrees. Now when your fabric is to the right of your foot and your line, then you're going to be pretty good with getting these corners correct. We're going to have to do a little bit of back stitching when we're doing the inside though, because we're going to be going the opposite direction. So we're going to start off the same way. We're going to make sure we have that needle where we want it to be, just inside the black. I'm going to pull that bobbin thread up. Okay, I want to really zoom in so you can see what's happening here. I can't get the foot off while the needle's in there. Okay, don't do this at home. This is just so that I can show you what's going on. So when we turn it, the next stitch I'm going to draw on here because this is a heat erasable pen. So I'm going to just draw right there. That next stitch is going to go right there. Okay, but these stitches end here. So you can either just go for it and go on and have this gap of the width of your stitches in your applique, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to backstitch to this line and then keep going. So you do need to do that on each corner when you're doing the inside of your Santa belt. I'm going to start by going in reverse, probably 3 stitches. So now I'm going to go forward and we're going to do the same thing at this next corner. So have you done applique before? Do you love applique? Are you not sure about applique? This is pretty easy, just straight lines. Great introduction if you've never done it before, but let me know in the comments. How do you feel about it? What's your expertise? Do you want to see more of it? Let me know. And when we get back to the beginning, you're just going to go to the end, not just to the end of the black, but to the end of the stitching so that you have nice blocks of stitching around there, and then you can knot that off. Now we have the front of the bag done and the back of the bag done. So this is going to be the outside and some lint. That's going to be the outside, and then we still have our 2 pieces of white. Next, you need to decide, do you want to make a box bottom bag or do you just want to do a simple bag where you're going to sew around and whatever you put in the bag creates the shape for it? If you want to do the simplest way, then what you're going to do now is you're going to pin or clip these together, right sides together, and you're going to sew all 3 of these sides, leave the top open. Then you're going to take the lining, you're going to sew down and here, leaving space open at the bottom for turning. So that's if you're doing the simplest. But I'm going to show you how to put a box bottom on this. So just skip ahead to the next step if you've decided, nope, you don't want to do that. So I'm going to take a little square ruler just because it's nice and handy. And we are going to draw and cut out a 3-inch square on each corner. So I have these layered together. So I'm going to cut both halves at the same time. We're going to do it to the front, and the outside, and the lining. And this is going to give us a 6-inch box bottom on the bottom of our bag. So if you want it to be smaller, if you want 5 inches, you're going to do 2.5-inch square. See how that math works? It's double. The width of your box bottom is double what you cut out. Now what I often do is I'll use a rotary cutter most of the way, And then I will just take scissors and snip to that corner because I don't want to cut too far. I don't want to cut into what's going to be the corner of the bag. Before I move this and cut the bottom out of the lining, I'm going to pin this together. And for the outside of your bag, we're going to sew both sides and straight across the bottom. You don't do anything here. We're going to do that later. So now I have my 2 lining pieces together, and I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to cut the 3-inch box bottom out of the bottom corners. Okay, and just like the other one, we're going to pin these 3 sides together. We want to make sure we leave a few inches of the bottom of the lining open so that we can turn this project when we get it sewn together. One thing I love about this project, it is all straight stitches. So it's a great beginner project. Pretty quick and easy. So now we're just going to do the straight stitching. I'm going to be doing the outside first. So I'm going to go down fully down both sides and across the bottom. Now you do want to make sure that this seam stays towards the black. So what I usually do is I just take scissors, or you can get a stiletto tool or something else, but scissors work great. I always have them next to my sewing machine, and I just press that down to keep my fingers away from that needle. Now we're going to stitch all the way across the bottom. We're skipping the cutout. Don't do anything with that yet. And now all the way up the other side. Now you do the same thing to the lining, but since it's white on a white machine, it's kind of hard to see. And because there's going to be a bit of pressure on this area when you're turning this rather large bag right side out, I'm not just going to do a simple knot. I'm going to go back and forth twice to reinforce that area better. Now we are going to make our box bottoms. So what you're going to do is you're going to open this up, the cut lines. You're going to match these 2 seams. And I like to put the seams to either side. So see how these seams are both going this way and these are going this way? That just decreases the bulk. And then you're just going to fold this out, match those raw edges. You're going to match those raw edges. And then you're just going to sew straight across there. So you're just going to sew straight across there with a 1/4 inch seam. So this is just a different way of making a box bottom. Instead of having these big points come out and then using a ruler and drawing a line and then trimming it, you can cut out a square in the beginning and then just pin them together, and you don't have stitching later. So you're cutting at one point or another, but this is the way I decided to show you on this project. So we're going to do this for all 4 box bottoms, the 2 on the outside and the 2 on the lining. Do you have a preferred way to do box bottoms? Do you like doing the cutouts? Do you prefer to have the point out here and draw a line? Have you tried both? Let me know what you prefer. I'm really curious. Next step, ironing and creating the drawstring channel. So we have our box bottoms. So you can see that it's going to stand up and be super cute. Now we are going to make the channel for the drawstrings. You're going to keep it wrong side out because we're going to be folding it in. We're going to fold down and press about 1/2 inch. So if you want to use a gauge, this basically is a ruler with a little slidey thing. You can set it to 1/2 inch. That's what we're going to do first. So we're going to fold this upper raw edge down 1/2 inch. And you can just kind of do that to get it started and then check it along the way. What I usually like to do is get it pretty much all folded down before I press. All right, so then I'll just move this gauge along and just make sure I don't have it too far down. And then you just want to make sure the back is pretty much the same. Now we're going to fold it down again. And this time we're going to fold it down 1 inch. So I'm just going to move my gauge to 1 inch. I'm eyeballing that. I'm using my gauge to double check. It's looking good. Now we're going to press that. Okay, now we're going to set that aside and we're going to do the lining. Now we're going to do a small hem on the lining, just not exactly like the front. We're just going to fold it down once, 1/4 inch, and we're going to stitch all the way around that. This is going to be tucked under the drawstring channel. And the reason that we're folding it down and sewing is so that as that drawstring moves around, as the bag is tightened and untightened and enjoyed, that the top isn't going to fray. So you're going to keep this the wrong side out. So you're going to be folding down towards the wrong side. So I've set my gauge to 1/4 inch just to make sure I'm pretty close as I'm ironing. You don't want to go too much. If you were to do 1/2 inch or more, this is going to stick out of the bottom of that drawstring channel. And I'm just going to run and do a quick stitch all the way around. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how to put the 2 halves together. We are getting close to done. Now we have the channel on the front, pressed twice and folded. We have folded over and sewn the lining 1/4 inch. Now this part is super, super important. You need to make sure there are no colored threads floating around your project, because if they end up floating up here, you're going to see them. Ask me how I know. I put one together the other day and had a big black thread that went up there. So I had to take the seam ripper, open it up, and get rid of that thread. So if there's anything colorful and long, just have a little look before you put this together. We're going to keep the front / outside of your bag wrong side out. Now we're going to take the lining. We are going to turn it right side out so that when we put the two together, they are going to be wrong sides together. Now you're going to put the outside into the lining, and you're going to line up the side seams, side seam, and the box bottoms. You need to make sure your exterior is really down in there, and get the side seams lined up. So make sure those are coming together. And now your lining is going to go just under the edge. See that right there? The edge of your drawstring casing. We're going to have to use pins. I love clips, but we can't use clips in this case because this doesn't come all the way up here. It's just going to be under the edge. So we're going to do both sides, making sure we get that lined up. Now, if you really don't want to line it, you don't have to. You can just put the drawstring in this, but then you're going to have a lot of this stuff going on the inside. So now we have this pinned together. We have those seams lined up on both sides. And now I'm going to kind of go around the top, make sure that lining is underneath. I'm going to put my hands in here, and I'm just going to kind of push it around just to make sure everything is lined up. And then if you'll notice at my elbows, make sure, well, I got to move over more. Okay, so I'm going like this, but where your elbows are, that's really going to help get this top lined up really, really well. So now you look all the way around. The lining is underneath that edge. We're going to put pins all the way around, and then we're going to sew. So we're going to sew really close to that edge where it's folded over, making sure we catch the lining. We're going to leave about 1 inch open, and we're going to double back so that it's nice and secure, because we're just going to string our drawstring through here from the inside of the bag. We are almost done. All that's left is adding the string. So I took a 44-inch piece of nylon paracord, I believe it's called, and it does fray if you don't heat the end. So always be careful. If you're using fire, I just take a little flame stick, and you can just see that melt down, and it kind of makes it hard, kind of hardens the nylon into little plastic balls. Then I'm just going to take a quilting pin, I'm going to put it through there, and then we are going to thread it into our bag. All right, then you're going to take the pin off when you get it out the other side. I just put the ends together, even them up, and then knot the string. And you can leave that as long as you want, as short. If you want to shorten it, you can shorten it and heat it again. You want to make sure that it can open as wide as it can go before it reaches the knot. That's the main thing. Always have a little bit of extra. So now, look at that. It is ready. Put the gift in there, pull that string, and you have a great Santa gift bag. If you make one of these and share it on social media, be sure to tag me. I love to see what people do with projects that I share. Quick, gorgeous, and simple way to make a bag from Santa.